The Galactic War Academy was known for power. Every year, the strongest young warriors from many planets came to train inside its giant silver walls. The training hall was wide and bright. The floor was made of dark metal. The ceiling lights shone like white stars. Hologram screens floated in the air, showing battle maps and fleet movements. Cadets stood in perfect lines. Some wore shining armor with blue energy lines glowing across their suits. Some had tall crests on their helmets. Others had sharp claws, heavy tails, or glowing eyes. Each one carried the pride of a powerful empire. They believed they were the future rulers of the galaxy. Then the doors at the back of the hall opened. A soft sound. Nothing dramatic. But heads still turned. A human girl walked inside. She was not wearing advanced armor. No glowing shield. No metal plates. No symbols of a great empire. She wore a simple, old earth jacket. It was dark green, faded by time. The fabric looked heavy. One sleeve had a burn mark. The edges were slightly torn. The zipper looked old but strong. For a moment, no one spoke. Then someone laughed. "Is this a joke?" a tall blue-skinned cadet whispered. Another leaned forward. "That is cloth. Real cloth." More laughter followed. The human girl did not stop walking. She kept her steps calm and steady. Her face showed no fear. No shame. Only quiet focus. She moved to the empty space in the last row. A red-armored cadet turned toward her and smirked. "Did your planet forget how to build armor?" More chuckles spread across the hall. A tall Vorton cadet stepped closer. He was larger than most, with sharp shoulders and glowing yellow eyes. He reached out and lightly flicked the sleeve of her jacket. The fabric moved. "This belongs in a museum," he said loudly. "Maybe humans train in history class instead of war." The room burst into louder laughter. The human girl slowly looked at him. Her eyes were steady. "You should not touch what you do not understand," she said calmly. Her voice was soft. Not angry. Not afraid. That only made some of them laugh harder. "Understand?" the Vorton cadet repeated. "It is old cloth." But on her left shoulder, there was something small. A stitched symbol. Almost faded. Easy to miss unless someone looked closely. The main doors opened again. Heavy steps echoed across the metal floor. Commander Rail entered. Silence fell instantly. Rail was not young. Scars crossed his face. One of his eyes had a faint metal glow. His uniform was dark and simple, but everyone in the room knew his history. He survived battles most commanders did not. He stopped at the front of the hall. His sharp eyes scanned the room. Then his gaze moved. Row by row. Until it stopped. On her. On the jacket. He did not blink. The room waited. Rail stepped forward slowly. His boots echoed with each step. The sound felt louder than before. He walked past the armored cadets. Past the glowing suits. Until he stood in front of the human girl. The Vorton cadet stepped back. Rail's eyes focused on the shoulder symbol. His breath became slower. The color in his face changed. For a long moment, he said nothing. The room felt colder. Finally, his voice came out low. "Where did you get that jacket?" The laughter was gone now. The human girl looked straight at him. "It was my mother's," she answered. Rail's hand moved slightly, almost shaking. He leaned closer to see the symbol clearly. His voice dropped even lower. "That is not possible." Around them, the cadets felt something shift. The same jacket they laughed at minutes ago now felt different. He straightened his back slowly. His next words were quiet but heavy. Stand still, he ordered. And for the first time since she entered the hall, every cadet in the room understood something simple. They may have laughed too soon. The training hall remained silent. No one moved. No one whispered. Commander Rail kept staring at the small faded symbol on the human girl's shoulder. It looked simple. Just a stitched shape in dark thread. But to him, it was not simple. It was a memory. A dangerous one. He stepped back slowly, his eyes never leaving the jacket. "What is your name, cadet?" he asked. "Arya Ward," she replied in a calm voice. The name hit him like a shockwave. Ward. Some of the older officers at the academy had spoken that name in quiet tones years ago. A human captain who had held a defense line alone when all others retreated. A commander who refused to abandon Allied ships even when defeat was certain. Many believed she had died in that battle. Rail swallowed slowly. "Your mother's name?" he asked carefully. "Captain Elena Ward." The air in the hall felt heavy. A few cadets looked at each other, confused. The name meant nothing to them. Humans were new to the galaxy's main powers. Many still believed they were weak, reckless, emotional. But Rail knew better. He had been there. Years ago, on the edge of the Drather expanse, when an enemy fleet larger than any before appeared from dark space. Allied forces began to fall back. Retreat orders were sent. But one Terran strike group did not retreat. Their commander had worn a jacket just like this one under her armor. The same symbol stitched on the shoulder. The last line of Earth. Rail took a slow breath. He turned toward the class. "Do you know what that symbol means?" he asked. Silence answered him. The Vorten cadet lowered his eyes but said nothing. Rail's voice grew stronger. "That symbol represents a unit that never retreated. Not once." He walked slowly across the floor as he spoke. They were sent to impossible battles. They were outnumbered. Outgunned. Surrounded. He stopped. And they stayed. The hologram screens above flickered on suddenly. Old battle footage appeared. Ships exploding. Shields collapsing. Enemy forces closing in. At the center of the chaos, a small Terran formation held its ground. "That unit bought us enough time to escape," Rail continued. "Without them, this academy would not exist. Most of you would not have been born." The room was completely still now. The Vorten cadet, who had laughed the loudest, slowly looked at Arya's jacket again. It did not look like a joke anymore. Rail stepped back toward Arya. "Why are you here?" he asked. "To train," she answered. "That unit was dissolved after the war," Rail said quietly. "Only 12 survived." Arya's expression did not change. "My mother did not survive," she said. Rail nodded once. "I know." The silence felt different now. It was no longer uncomfortable. It was respectful. Rail suddenly did something no one expected. He stood straight. Then he saluted her. Not as a cadet. But as a soldier. Gasps filled the hall. An instructor never saluted a student. Especially not on the first day. The message was clear. "This cadet will be treated with respect," Rail said firmly. His eyes moved toward the Vorten cadet. "Mockery is easy," he continued. "Understanding takes experience." The Vorten lowered his head fully this time. Rail looked back at Arya. "Your mother's unit had a reputation," he said. "They were calm in chaos. Silent in fear. And deadly when needed." He paused. "I want to see if that reputation lives on." He turned toward the control panel. "Prepare combat simulation." The screens changed. The training floor shifted. Energy barriers rose around the edges. Murmurs spread again, but this time they were nervous. Rael gave the command. Cadet Ward, he said calmly, you will face 3 opponents. The Vorten cadet looked up in surprise. Rael's voice stayed steady. Choose wisely, he added. Arya stepped forward slowly. I do not need to choose, she said. The room watched carefully. Her voice remained calm. They already chose when they laughed. And for the second time that day, the entire hall felt something shift. The combat floor sealed with a sharp metallic sound. Energy walls rose around the training zone. The lights dimmed slightly, and red lines appeared across the ground, marking battle boundaries. The cadet stepped back behind the shield barrier. Commander Rael stood near the control panel, his face calm again, but his eyes sharp. Simulation set to live combat speed, he announced. No lethal strikes. Everything else allowed. The Vorten cadet stepped forward first. 2 others joined him, one fast and thin with glowing blades, the other heavy and armored with a powered shield. All 3 wore advanced combat suits. Arya still wore only the old jacket. A few cadets whispered nervously. She has no armor. She cannot block plasma strikes. She will lose. Rael did not say anything. He only watched. The simulation began. The heavy cadet charged first, shield glowing bright blue. The ground shook under his steps. The thin cadet moved to the side, preparing to strike from behind. The Vorten waited, studying her. Arya did not rush. She stepped backward once. Calm. Measured. The heavy cadet swung his shield in a wide arc. She ducked low. The shield passed over her head with a loud hum. She rolled to the side and kicked the back of his knee joint. The armor sparked. He stumbled. Fast. Precise. No wasted movement. The thin cadet attacked next, blades flashing. Sharp energy lines cut through the air. Arya grabbed a dropped training rod from the ground and blocked the first strike. The force pushed her back, but she stayed balanced. She twisted her wrist and struck the thin cadet's wrist joint. The blade flickered and shut down. A second hit to the chest plate. His armor locked. Disabled. Gasps filled the hall. The heavy cadet tried to stand again, but Arya moved behind him and struck the power core joint at his lower back. His shield collapsed. He dropped to one knee. 2 down. The Vorten cadet stared at her, disbelief clear in his glowing eyes. You planned this, he said. No, she answered softly. I trained for it. He roared and activated full combat mode. His armor expanded slightly, power increasing. He charged with real anger now. Arya did not smile. She waited. At the last second, she stepped forward instead of backward. She moved inside his reach. Her hand grabbed his arm. She used his forward force against him and turned sharply. The Vorten lost balance. She pulled him down and placed the training rod at his throat before he could react. The simulation froze. Silence. No one clapped. No one spoke. 3 elite cadets lay on the ground. The human girl stood in the center, breathing steady. The old jacket had a small new tear on the sleeve. That was all. Commander Rael stepped forward slowly. The energy walls lowered. Combat complete, the system announced. The Vorten looked up at her, no anger left now. Only respect. Rael faced the class. Technology gives strength, he said calmly. But discipline gives control. He looked at Arya. Control wins wars. He walked closer to her. Where did you learn to fight like that? He asked quietly. My mother taught me, she replied. Rael nodded once. She trained you knowing this day might come. Arya did not answer. She did not need to. The cadets began to understand something important. The jacket was not a symbol of the past. It was proof of survival. Rael turned back to the class. You laughed at fabric, he said. But you did not see the weight it carries. His voice grew stronger. Never mistake simplicity for weakness. He paused, then looked at Arya again. This academy teaches many skills, he continued. But today, you all learned something else. The Vorton slowly stood up. He removed his helmet. Then, in front of everyone, he bowed his head slightly toward Arya. I was wrong, he said. She simply nodded. No pride. No anger. Just quiet acceptance. The day should have ended there. But as Rael turned toward the control panel, alarms suddenly echoed through the hall. A sharp red light flashed across the ceiling. Unknown fleet detected, the system announced. Multiple warp signatures entering Academy space. The room froze again. But this time, not because of a jacket. Rael looked toward the hologram screen as enemy ships appeared on display. Large. Heavily armed. Unmarked. His jaw tightened. The cadets looked at him for orders. But for a brief second. His eyes moved toward Arya. And toward the small faded symbol on her shoulder. As if he was remembering something the rest of them still did not know. The alarms did not stop. Red warning lights flashed across the hall. The hologram above shifted from training mode to live space view. Outside the Academy's massive windows, small lights appeared in the darkness. They were not stars. They were ships. Large warships. Unmarked. Silent. Moving in formation. Cadets began whispering again, but this time there was no laughter. Who are they? No transponder codes. They came out of warp too close. Commander Rael's voice cut through the fear. All cadets to defense positions. Remain calm. His tone was steady, but his eyes were focused and sharp. The Academy was protected by strong shields. It was not easy to threaten. But the ships on screen were not small patrol craft. They were heavy cruisers, built for war. A message request flashed across the control panel. Unknown fleet. No identification. Rael ignored it for now. He turned toward Arya. She stood still, watching the screen. No panic on her face. Only thought. Rael stepped closer to her. There is something about that jacket, he said quietly. Something most of them do not know. Arya looked at him. My mother told me it was important, she said. She said I would understand one day. Rael nodded slowly. That symbol is not just memory, he explained. The last line of Earth were not only soldiers. They were also carriers. Carriers? She asked. Of a failsafe, he replied. He lowered his voice even more. In case Earth ever faced total destruction, a hidden signal could be sent. A priority call. One that Terran High Command would always answer. Arya looked down at the small stitched symbol. It is inside the threads, Rael said. Encrypted in the fabric. Biometric locked. She felt her heartbeat grow heavier. My mother never used it, she whispered. She chose to stay and fight instead, Rael answered. The Academy shook slightly. A bright flash appeared on the hologram. The unknown fleet had fired a warning shot at the outer defense satellites. The cadets gasped. This is not a drill, Rael said loudly now. Shield teams to command deck. He looked back at Arya. If that fleet breaches the shields, we cannot hold long. This is a training station, not a war fortress. Another explosion appeared on screen. One of the satellites was gone. Arya's fingers touched the shoulder of her jacket. You said the signal calls the Terran fleet, she said. Yes, Rael answered. But once activated, there is no taking it back. It means Earth believes extinction is possible. The weight of those words hung in the air. The Vorten cadet stepped closer. His earlier pride was gone. If we fall, he said quietly, this academy falls with us. Arya closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered her mother's last words. Do not wear it for pride. Wear it for responsibility. The station shook again. A louder blast this time. Shields were weakening. Rail received a new alert. Enemy boarding craft preparing launch. Time was gone. Arya opened her eyes. Show me how, she said. Rail stepped forward and gently pressed a small hidden seam under the symbol. Place your hand here, he instructed. She did. The fabric felt warm. A small light flickered beneath the threads. Voice confirmation required, the system inside the jacket whispered softly. Arya swallowed. This is Arya Ward, she said clearly. Daughter of Captain Elena Ward. Last line of Earth. There was a pause. Then the symbol glowed brighter. Priority code recognized. A thin beam of light shot upward from the jacket, invisible to most eyes but visible on the hologram. A signal traveling faster than standard communication. Straight into deep space. The room became silent again. Rail stared at the screen. What happens now? The Vorten cadet asked. Rail answered quietly. Now, we wait. Outside, the enemy fleet moved closer. Boarding ships launched. The Academy's outer shield cracked under another blast. Some cadets tightened their grip on weapons. Some looked afraid. Arya simply stood still. Watching space. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Nothing appeared. A few cadets exchanged nervous looks. Maybe no one heard, someone whispered. Rail did not speak. He kept watching. Then. The stars shifted. Space bent in front of the enemy fleet. A ripple formed. Then another. And another. Large warp signatures appeared one by one. Not 5. Not 10. Dozens. Then hundreds. Massive ships emerged from warp, dark and powerful. Each one carried the Terran emblem. The enemy fleet stopped moving. Even from this distance, fear could almost be felt. On the main screen, a Terran flagship powered up its main cannons. A communication channel forced itself open across all frequencies. A calm human voice filled the hall. Priority signal received. A pause. Then the next words. Terran fleet has arrived. And for the second time that day. The galaxy froze. The Terran fleet did not arrive with noise. It arrived with presence. Hundreds of warships hung in space like a wall of iron and shadow. Their hulls were dark. Their weapons were charged but silent. No flashing lights. No wild formations. Just order. Just control. The unknown enemy fleet stopped moving. Boarding craft froze mid-path. Engines dimmed. No more shots were fired. Inside the academy, every cadet stared at the hologram. Even the Vorten, who once laughed, looked speechless. Commander Rail stood very still. He had seen the Terran fleet once before. But never like this. A massive flagship moved forward slowly. Larger than the others. Calm and steady. A communication channel forced itself open across every enemy frequency. A human admiral appeared on the main screen. His uniform was simple. His expression was controlled. His eyes were sharp. This sector is under Terran protection, he said clearly. His voice was not loud. It did not need to be. We received a last-line priority signal. His eyes shifted slightly, as if he could see through the screen. To the one who carries Captain Ward's code, we stand with you. Inside the hall, all eyes turned to Arya. She did not smile. She did not look proud. She only stood still in her old Earth jacket. Outside, one of the enemy cruisers powered its weapons slightly, as if testing courage. The Terran flagship responded instantly. Its main cannons rotated into position. Not fired. Just aimed. That was enough. The enemy ship powered down. Seconds felt longer than minutes. Finally, the enemy fleet commander appeared on screen. A tall armored figure, voice tense. "We were not informed this sector was under Terran defense," he said. The human admiral replied calmly. "You were informed the moment you saw us." Silence followed. No threats. No shouting. Just quiet power. After a long pause, the enemy fleet began to retreat. One by one, their ships turned. Warp engines activated. They left without another word. Inside the academy, tension slowly faded. Some cadets released breaths they did not know they were holding. The red warning lights shut down. Silence returned to the hall. But it was not the same silence as before. It was heavier. Full of understanding. The Terran admiral spoke again. "This station is secure." His eyes focused slightly lower, toward Arya. "Daughter of Ward," he said softly, "your mother held the line so others could live." A small pause. "Today, you reminded us why we never ignore that call." The channel closed. The Terran fleet did not leave immediately. They remained in position, guarding the academy like silent giants. Commander Rail turned slowly toward Arya. He walked closer and stood in front of her. "You understand what this means now," he said quietly. She nodded once. "Yes. That signal is not power," he continued. "It is responsibility." "I know," she replied. Around them, the cadets began to move again. But no one laughed. No one whispered insults. The Vorton stepped forward. He removed his armored gloves and bowed his head deeply. "I judged you by cloth," he said honestly. "I was wrong." Arya looked at him calmly. "You judged what you saw," she answered. "Now you see more." He nodded. Commander Rail faced the entire hall. "Let today be your lesson," he said firmly. "Strength is not always loud. Honor is not always shining." His eyes moved to the old jacket. "Some symbols carry more weight than armor." The cadets stood straighter. They understood now. The human girl they mocked had not arrived weak. She had arrived carrying a legacy. And when danger came, she did not shout. She did not panic. She answered. Outside, the Terran fleet finally began to withdraw, warping away one by one. Peace returned to the academy. But something had changed. From that day forward, no one laughed at Arya Ward. And no one in that hall would ever again mistake simplicity for weakness. Because they all saw it clearly now. The jacket was never just fabric. It was a promise. And when humans make a promise, the galaxy listens.